Hi friends, I hope you're all well. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a list of books I would like to read in the summer months. We have actually had the official first day of summer in Iceland already. I think it was April 22nd that it fell, and that's like a public holiday. People take it off and they celebrate. And because the winters are so long in Iceland and so tough, it's really special to celebrate summer. So I thought it would be really fun to put together a list of books I want to read in the summer. So a lot of these books either have summery vibes or they just feel like a kind of lighter feeling book. I read more lighter feeling books in the summer typically, or that's the kind of mood I would associate with summer. I do also tend to read more historical fiction in summer, and I'm not really sure why in particular I do reach for historical fiction, but there might be a few of those on this list. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the first book on this list is Swimming in the Dark by Tomasz Jedrowski, and this is set in 1980s Poland, and it's a love story that takes place in the summer. And I've had this on in my eye for probably since it came out, but I've been kind of saving it for the right moment, and I just feel like summer is definitely the time to pick this book up. I've also heard loads and loads of really good stuff about this book, and it's definitely probably the first priority on my TBR in terms of what I will read in the summer, because I know I have been saving it for that kind of time period. So I'm very excited to read that. It's a love story between two men, and it's like they're in their youth, and I think it follows them as they grow older, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm just really looking forward to reading it and finding out more about the story. The second book on this list is one that I just stumbled upon in the library and thought to myself, I'm going to take a note of that because I'll return to it in the summer, and that is The Summer House by Teir, and that's translated by Tiina, Nunnally, I believe is how you say it. And this is a story about a husband and wife and their kids, and they go to a lake house, I think, or a summer house. It's set in Finland, and it's by a Finnish-Swedish author, and I just think it sounds really nice. I think being close to that kind of area geographically as well, this one's going to be quite maybe quite relatable or interesting from like a cultural perspective, and I just think it's going to be a cool story about family holidays as well, and summer holidays, and yeah, just giving me complete summer vibes, and so I'm looking forward to picking that one up. The next book on this TBR is Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan. This is set in a small Scottish town, and it's about the friendship between two characters, James and Talia, and I think it's like following them as they grow older. So it starts in the 1980s and follows them through their life experiences, both as friends and as individuals. So it's a coming of age narrative, but it also explores male fragility and kind of vulnerability and a lot of different topics which are quite interesting to me. And yeah, it starts off in the summer months, so I think it's going to be a good read for this time of year. I'm starting to realise that a lot of the books on this TBR are written by men, which is quite interesting to me because a lot of my reading so far this year has been written by female authors, so that's quite interesting. But the next book I have is Rough Music by Gale. This is one that I have had on my TBR for a little while. I think I bought it in summer last year, and Gale's an author who I would like to read all of the books that they have published. I read Gale's Take Nothing With You and really enjoyed it, and I read that in the summer months. It was actually, I think, my first summer in Iceland I read that, and I really enjoyed it. And I think Gale has such a beautiful writing style that I just want to read more of his stories and read and understand more of his kind of characters and stuff like that. So this one follows a character called Will, who's gifted 2 weeks in a beach house in Cornwall in the UK, and he takes his aging parents with him. He's 40 years old and he takes his aging parents with him, and it's about kind of the family bonds and the things that come out during that time. I realise I'm not even holding the book up, which is not a very good start. But yeah, it kind of follows their relationships and how complicated they are, and stuff like that. I think it's going to be really interesting, and it's set in a summer house, so I think it's got the kind of summer vibes that I'm looking for, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. I was also looking through my Kindle to see if there was any books that kind of caught my eye as potentials for this list, and one of the books that I thought would be quite fun to read in the summer months is called The Little Old Lady Who Broke All the Rules, and that's by Catharina Ingleman-Sundburg, I think how you say her name, and it's about a a woman. I think she escapes a retirement home and her kind of adventures, and I love seeing older characters in books, but I also love when those characters don't fit the mould of what a stereotype of an older person is, and I think this one is going to kind of challenge those stereotypes and just be quite a fun, light read, which is always fun in the summer months. Another author who writes quite fun, sometimes has heavier themes put in, but is overall just like quite a funny, light-hearted kind of writing, is a writer called Ross Sayers, and I have both of their books on my TBR, but I think Mary's The Name is set in the summer, and it's also about familial relationships, and I'm realising there's a bit of a theme here with the books that I've picked out, which I didn't realise before, but I think it's going to be a fun one to read. Ross Sayers is really, really funny on Twitter and in the literature that he produces, and it's so I always have such a good time reading his books. I read one which was called Sonny and Me, and it's about two young boys and their friendship, and it's written completely in Scots, so that's worth saying. It might be a bit difficult if you don't know how to read Scots or things like that, but it is such a good time, and I'm really looking forward to reading more from him, and I think this one's just going to be a good pick for summer. The next book on this TBR is Inlands, and that's written by Elin Williams and translated by Duncan J. Lewis, and it's the story of a young woman who moves from Stockholm to live with her partner in a remote town. It says in the Arctic Circle, so I'm not sure exactly where, but it's kind of about their relationship breaks down immediately when they move there, and then it's about her deciding to stay there, the struggles she faces with like the extremities of the weather and the small community and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be a really interesting kind of exploration of like culture differences even within possibly the same country, and the differences in ways of life and things that the protagonist experiences, and it doesn't give me fully summer vibes, but it is one that's been on my TBR for about a year, and I'm really excited to read it, and I think this is just a good time to pick it up. I've also put on this list a book that I have started already, which I just feel I've maybe picked up at the wrong time, but I think it's going to be a good one to read over the summer months, and that is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I just have had this on my radar since kind of being interested in reading more sci-fi. Quite a few people recommended this book to me, and I picked it up kind of expecting the wrong thing. So I expected it to be a very plot-driven narrative, a very kind of fast-paced book, and it's like the opposite of that. So it's character-driven study, it's slow-paced, and I just feel like that's the kind of thing that I might read in the summer, maybe. I don't really know if I would read fast-paced or slow-paced books, but it's given me more kind of summer vibes, and I think that if I pick this up in, say, a few weeks, I will get on really well with it. I have read about 30 pages, so I made a start on it, but it is quite a chunky book, and I would like to kind of get into the series and just enjoy that. So I think this is going to be one that I will enjoy this summer. While at the library last week as well, I did also see a romance novel that I want to read for a little while. I think that summer is a good time to pick up like a romance or like a contemporary fiction book, because it's a bit of a lighter, often they explore like lighter topics. They're often a lot of fun, and it's just kind of, it feels like a summer read, doesn't it? So, or maybe it's just me, I don't know. Tell me, what kind of books would you kind of associate with summer? Do we have a similar kind of association? But yeah, so the book that I picked up is Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and it's by Talia Hibbert, and I've heard nothing but good things about this book, and I'm very curious to read it and see what I think of it. So if you haven't heard anything about this series, this follows a protagonist who has a chronic illness, and she sets out at the start of this book to kind of set a list of things that she would love to do, the get a life kind of thing, the things that would be exciting for her to do, and she kind of sets out to tick off the things on this list and have a good time while she does it. And on her mission to seek out new things and be a bit more rebellious, she meets a male love interest, and she enlists him to kind of help her with completing her list, and it kind of follows the romance as it develops. I just think it sounds like fun. I love the idea of creating a list of things you want to do and just going out there and doing them. So that's all the books I want to read this summer. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought of them. Do they have the kind of summer vibes I'm looking for? and let me know also what's on your TBR for this summer, what books you would like to get to in the summer months. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.